Welcome to the Uncanny Valley podcast.
Great to be here.
Today we're diving into a world that's just teeming with imagination. We're talking about unexpected friendships, real personal growth, all revealed in a true classic and a Green Gables.
And this version, the eBook from 2008, updated just recently in April 2025, gives us such a rich view, doesn't it? A whole tapestry of human experience through Anne's eyes.
Absolutely unforgettable eyes. So let's set the scene. We start in this apparently very quiet, very orderly village, Avonlea.
Right. And our first point of focus, really the person who sets the whole story in motion, is Mrs. Rachel Lynde.
Ah, Mrs. Lynde, renowned for knowing everything.
Everything. Known for her, let's say, keen observations and sticking strictly to decency and decorum.
Her world is meticulously ordered, but then something throws it completely off kilter, an unusual sight.
Exactly. It's Matthew Cuthbert.
Who the book tells us is the shyest man alive.
Yep. And he's dressed in his Sunday best, driving his buggy a considerable distance.
Now, for anyone else, maybe not a huge deal, but for Matthew, this is seismic. It's completely out of character.
It absolutely is. A total deviation from his routine. And that's what lights the fire under Mrs. Rachel's curiosity. What does this tell us right away about Avonlea?
Well, it tells us that routine is everything, and Mrs. Lynde is the keeper of that routine.
She really is. She embodies local vigilance, the self-appointed guardian of Avonlea's social norms. Her house at Lynn's Hollow, it's not just a home.
It's mission control.
It really is an observation post. We're told her sharp eye misses absolutely nothing. The Brooks' behavior, the kids' mischief, nothing gets past her.
And her internal monologue, where she's trying to figure out Matthew's trip, shows this almost obsessive need for order, for understanding why people do what they do.
Right. Matthew messing up the predictable pattern actually spoils her afternoon's enjoyment, which is such a perfect detail. It shows how deeply invested she is.
It really does. Because Matthew's errand isn't just odd, it becomes his central puzzle. He hardly ever leaves Green Gables.
So it has to be something major.
Exactly. And Mrs. Rachel goes through the possibilities. Turnip seed. Yeah, wouldn't dress up.
Socked her. Nope, not driving fast enough.
Visiting. And the text is emphatic. He never visits.
Huh. Yes. So none of the usual reasons fit. It underlines just how far outside his normal, quiet life he stepped.
Which pushes her to that inevitable conclusion. I'll just step over to Green Gables after tea and find out from Marilla.
Where he's gone and why. She even says she won't know a minute's peace of mind or conscience until she knows. It's brilliant because it uses the nosiest person in town to drive the plot forward. We see the world through her very critical eyes.
And her walk up that lane to Green Gables is revealing too. Deep-rutted, grassy lane.
Yeah, only stand a quarter of a mile, but the lane makes it feel longer. And as she walks, you get her unfiltered judgment on the Cuthberts living so isolated.
She thinks it makes them a little odd.
Definitely. She says she'd rather look at people than trees, which is hilarious coming from her.
But she does kind of admit they seem content, though, in her own dismissive way.
Oh yeah, with that classic line, a body can get used to anything, even to being hanged, as the Irishman said. Classic Mrs. Lynde. Blunt, folksy.
And then the description of Green Gables itself. The art is very green and neat and precise.
Swept as often as she swept her house. It tells you everything about Marilla before you even meet her, doesn't it? That meticulous nature.
You feel the orderliness just radiating from the place.
Exactly, and that carries right into the kitchen. It could be cheerful, it's big enough, it's light, but it's described as painfully clean, like an unused parlor.
Oof. That immediately signals Marilla's personality, right? Rigid, maybe a bit unwelcoming at first.
It's such a great use of setting. The house reflects the owner. Meticulous, controlled, but lacking that warmth, that spontaneity Anne is about to bring crashing in.
Although, those windows, one looking east, one west, one greened by vines, the other letting in sunlight, a glimpse of cherry blossoms.
Yeah, subtle hints maybe, contrasting views, maybe a hidden capacity for beauty, for softness. Underneath that stern exterior, it's a nice touch.
It really is. So that perfectly sets the stage. Let's move into part one, a surprising arrival and first impressions. We meet Marilla.
And her description is just striking. Tall, thin, with angles and without curves.
Dark hair and a hard little nod with 2 wire hairpins stuck aggressively through it.
You get the picture immediately. The narrator confirms it. Woman of narrow experience and rigid conscience.
This is someone who values practicality above all else. It makes her transformation later even more compelling.
Absolutely. And that practicality is crystal clear in why they decided to adopt. They were very specific.
They wanted a boy.
A boy, about 10 or 11, from an orphan asylum. And specifically, a born Canadian.
Why so specific?
Well, there was this fear, almost paranoia, about London street Arabs or, potentially dangerous kids. Marilla mentions a newspaper story about an orphan setting fire to a house.
So this wasn't a decision made lightly. It was very calculated.
Very. Which makes the surprise Matthew's about to bring home even more,
Well,
colossal. The gap between what they planned and what arrives is huge.
and Matthew's journey to Bright River Station to pick up this expected boy. How does that go for him? He's so shy.
The road itself is lovely, pretty, full of balsamy firwood and wild plums. It's this kind of ironic contrast to Matthew's internal state, his dread of talking to strangers.
You can imagine his relief, but also anxiety approaching the station master.
But that relief is fleeting. The station master tells him the train came and went half an hour ago, but passenger dropped off for you, a little girl.
And there she is, Anne.
Sitting alone on a pile of shingles. Apparently she told the station master she preferred it outside because there was more scope for imagination.
Wow. Right away you get a sense of her. What does she look like?
The first description is vivid, very thick, decidedly red hair, a small, white and thin, also much frecked face, large eyes that change color, green in some lights and moods and gray in others.
But the text pushes us to look closer, doesn't it? Like an extraordinary observer.
Exactly. Beyond the surface, you'd see her chin is pointed and pronounced, her eyes are full of spirit and vivacity, and her mouth is sweet-lipped and expressive.
It's more than just looks. It hints at this vibrant spirit under a seemingly plain exterior. Challenges you not to judge by first impressions.
And Matthew. Despite the obvious mistake they wanted a boy, here's a girl he feels this instant connection.
He can't bring himself to tell her.
No. The text says he could not tell this child with the glowing eyes that there had been a mistake. He just decides right then to take her home. Let Marilla deal with it.
It shows this quiet compassion, doesn't it? Instead of leaving her there.
Definitely. And he just says gently, "I'm sorry, I was late." Which, for Matthew, is huge. He hates talking.
And the thought of Marilla rejecting her. How does he feel about that?
The simile used is incredibly powerful. He feels like telling her would be like murdering something, much the same feeling that came over him when he had to kill a lamb or calf.
Wow. That tells you everything about how deeply he's already connected with her even before they've really spoken.
It's profound empathy, right? Transcending logic.
So they start the 8-mile drive back to Green Gables, and Anne talks a lot.
Nonstop. From the moment she introduces herself, she's got this extremely old carpet bag with all her worldly goods.
And she has to hold it a certain way so the handle doesn't break.
Yeah.
Even with so little, she cares about how things are handled.
And her imagination. It's not just a quirk. It's how she survives.
She talks about imagining other orphans were daughters of earls.
Yeah, or imagining herself nice and plump, with dimples, anything to cope with being dreadful thin. She even preferred sleeping in a wild cherry tree.
It's her escape route, making harsh reality bearable, even magical sometimes. It makes you think, doesn't it? How much do we all shape our reality with the stories we tell ourselves?
Absolutely. And then there's the naming. The avenue becomes the White Way of Delight.
And Barry's Pond is instantly the Lake of Shining Waters.
It's her way of claiming the world, imbuing it with beauty and meaning, making it hers. She's thrilled about maybe living near a brook, something she's always dreamed of. Shows that connection to nature.
But it's not all sunshine, is it? There's that sadness about her red hair.
That's a deep one. She admits she can't imagine away the red hair, unlike her freckles or skinniness. She really longs for that rose-leaf complexion and starry violet eyes.
And asking about the alabaster brow from a novel.
Yeah.
It's so earnest and romantic.
It reveals that core vulnerability, doesn't it? The one thing her powerful imagination can't fix for her.
Yet she also has these moments of just pure joy and beauty, like seeing the White Way of Delight, that road arched with blooming apple trees.
She falls silent, which for Anne is rare. It speaks volumes about how deeply nature affects her. Same with the Lake of Shining Waters. It shows she has this capacity for both nonstop chatter and deep, quiet awe.
And as they get closer to Green Gables, she has mixed feelings. Glad for a home, sad the drive is ending.
And she says that thing about how something pleasanter might come after, but you can't be sure, and often it isn't. It's surprisingly wise for a child, revealing this undercurrent of understanding about life's uncertainties.
But then she sees Green Gables, and even without knowing exactly what it looked like,
She points and says, "That's it, isn't it?" She just feels it's home. It's that intuitive connection again.
it sets up the whole tension, doesn't it? Her imagination and need for belonging versus the practical reserved world she's entering.
Montgomery sets it up perfectly. Conflict, transformation, it's all there.
And all the while, Matthew's affection is growing. That powerful simile again, not wanting her rapt light being quenched, feeling like it would be murder. He's already protective.
He's decided she's special, quietly but firmly.
But then, reality hits. They arrive. Marilla sees them.
And her first words are sharp,
Matthew Cuthbert, who's that? Where's the boy?
followed by Matthew's miserable confession. There was only her.
And just like that, Anne's bubble of hope bursts. You can almost feel it deflate. She understands immediately. You don't want me. You don't want me because I'm not a boy.
The tears just flood out. It's that raw pain of rejection, of hopes dashed again. Nobody ever did want me. I might have known it was all too beautiful to last.
It's devastating. A return to that feeling of being unwanted that shaped her life so far.
But even then, even in that despair, her personality shines through.
The name. Anne spelled with an E.
Because it looks so much nicer, more distinguished. She'd prefer Cordelia or Geraldine.
Even at her lowest, she wants beauty, romance, distinction. It's fundamental to who she is. It's about identity.
And Matthew, he does what Matthew does.
Avoids confrontation. Slips away to put the horse away.
Yep. Can't handle the emotional storm, retreats to his chores.
While Marilla deals with Anne's despair in her own way.
Her practical way, questioning if Anne can even eat when she's in the depths of despair.
And that blunt statement, a girl would be of no use to us, just reinforces the practical reason they wanted a child, making Anne feel even more unwanted. It's practicality without empathy, and it hurts.
So now we move into part 2, looking deeper at the power of imagination and naming the world. Because for Anne, imagination isn't just playing pretend.
No, it's fundamental. It's how she copes, how she finds joy, sometimes how she finds sorrow, too. It shapes her whole existence.
We saw it on the drive, and we see immediately at Green Gables, even in that fearsomely clean East Able room.
It sounds pretty bare and uninviting at first.
It does. But Anne looks out the window, sees the big cherry tree full of blossoms, the orchards, and declares there was scope for imagination here.
She finds potential anywhere, sees beyond the plainness.
And her thoughts about mornings. Splendid thing that there are mornings, she says. All sorts of mornings are interesting. So much scope for imagination.
She acknowledges that when the imaginees end, that hurts.
But then the next morning, she's hungry, it's sunny, and she's cheerful again. That resilience is amazing. She can be devastated one minute, find new joy the next.
Her connection with Matthew is built on this shared spirit, isn't it? She calls him a kindred spirit.
Because he didn't mind how much I talked. He seemed to like it. It's that immediate empathy, that quiet acceptance.
Which Marilla just doesn't get. Her dry comment, "You're both queer enough,"
Yeah,
really highlights the difference.
it does. And Anne needs to connect with her surroundings, so she names things. She wants things to have handles so they seem more like people.
Like the geranium bunny.
And the cherry tree. Snow Queen. It's her way of making the world personal, welcoming. She even asks Marilla if it might hurt a geranium's feelings just to be called geranium. It shows such deep empathy.
And when Marilla dashes her hopes about her hair changing color,
Anne finds comfort in quoting from a book, "My life is a perfect graveyard of buried hopes."
it's so dramatic. But also, she says she's rather glad she has one because it sounds so nice and romantic, like a heroine. She uses stories to frame her reality.
Maybe the most touching part of her imagination is her imaginary friends. Katie Maurice, her reflection.
And Violetta the fern.
It shows how lonely she's been, but also her huge capacity for attachment. The enchanted bookcase, the imagined place of flowers and sunshine and fairies. Her inner world is so vivid.
Marilla doesn't approve, though. You seem to half believe your own imaginations, she says worriedly.
There's that pragmatic gulf again, and maybe a hint of concern for Anne's grip on reality.
But imagination isn't always positive for Anne, is it? The haunted wood.
Right. That shows the dark side. She recounts all these ghost stories she heard, wailing ladies, murdered children, headless men, skeletons.
And creates this terrifying haunted wood in her mind at night, even if she claims she doesn't really believe in daylight.
Her fear is very real when it gets dark. Our minds can create our own horrors, can't they?
And Marilla's solution.
Typical Marilla. Determined to cure you of imagining ghosts, she forces Anne to walk through the woods alone after dark to get an apron pattern.
Despite Anne being genuinely terrified, it's discipline over empathy.
A real clash of worldviews. And the walk is torture for Anne, shuddering, heart-pounding. The fear is intense.
The experience makes her bitterly repent the license she had given to her imagination.
It's a powerful lesson. Imagination brings joy, but it can also bring paralyzing fear. Our inner worlds have real consequences.
Okay, let's move to part 3. Relationships forged and tested, starting with Matthew.
His quiet devotion. He's Anne's constant supporter, her kindred spirit. His love is often shown, not told.
Like the dress with the puffed sleeves for Christmas.
Oh, that's such a perfect example. He hates stores, he's painfully shy, but he goes through the ordeal, grimaced about to himself for 2 weeks just to get her those sleeves she secretly longs for.
He understands her vanity, her desire to fit in, even if she doesn't say it. It's pure, selfless kindness.
And he's consistently proud of her, especially her schoolwork. I knew you could beat them all easy, he'd say. He just beams at her.
That steady belief must have meant so much to her, especially compared to Marilla's restraint.
It's an anchor for her confidence. And his final words to her.
My girl that I'm proud of.
It just encapsulates their whole relationship. Quiet acceptance, unwavering pride, a cherished memory.
Now, Marilla's transformation, that's a major arc.
Huge. From rigid and critical to openly loving, even if she keeps that practical edge. Shows how connection can soften even the most guarded heart.
At first, expressing affection is hard for her, right? Calling Anne dearie feels awkward, those constant sniffs of disapproval.
Definitely. Emotion doesn't come easily. Years of reserve built up.
But underneath, we get hints. She secretly agrees with Anne sometimes, like about Mr. Bell's long prayers.
And she secretly thinks Anne's nose is remarkable pretty, something she'd never say out loud. Shows a hidden appreciation.
And slowly, she starts making concessions, letting Anne have Diana over, decorate for the minister's tea.
Her decision to keep Anne, influenced by Matthew and her dislike of Mrs. Blewett, that's the real turning point. It starts the softening process.
And the culmination is after Matthew dies, her tearful confession.
I love you as dear as if you were my own flesh and blood. It's a monumental breakthrough. Raw, honest love, finally expressed. The reserve just shatters.
Then there's Diana Barry, the bosom friend.
Their connection is instant. Anne's passionate plea, Diana's ready agreement, the solemn vow and promise. It gives Anne the real companionship she craved.
And their shared adventures, the playhouse, the fairy glass, naming places like Willowmere, Lover's Lane.
Violet Vale, the birch path. It's their shared imaginative world built on friendship.
Until the raspberry cordial incident.
Oh dear, yes. Anne accidentally gets Diana drunk on currant wine.
Which leads to tragic results. A temporary, painful separation forced by Mrs. Barry.
Yeah.
Anne is devastated, can't even eat from the depths of despair.
Shows how much that friendship means to her, but they do reconcile. Marilla actually goes to bat for Anne with Mrs. Barry.
And Diana sends that folded note with the apple. Their bond is strong enough to survive misunderstandings.
Interestingly, Mrs. Barry's strictness about the haunted wood later seems to stifle Diana's imagination a bit.
Unlike Anne, whose imagination persists despite challenges, shows how different temperaments react to external pressures.
Speaking of external pressures, Mrs. Rachel Lynde again.
Their first meeting is explosive. Mrs. Rachel's blunt criticisms about Anne being skinny, freckled, redheaded
provokes Anne's famous temper, calling Mrs. Lynde rude, impolite, unfeeling, wishing she were fat and clumsy.
It's shocking. Marilla is horrified, but also kind of amused.
Secretly, yes. She admits Mrs. Lynde was too hard on Anne, but still insists on an apology for the sake of decorum.
And Anne's apology. It's a performance.
A masterpiece. I could never express all my sorrow. No, not if I used up a whole dictionary. You must just imagine it.
It leaves Mrs. Rachel speechless. Marilla can hardly scold her for apologizing so well. It shows how Anne can even turn an apology into something unique.
And over time, their relationship changes. Mrs. Lynde becomes a source of, well, practical advice from Marilla about Anne.
And a comfort after Matthew's death. Anne even sees her as a familiar face at the exhibition later. Unlikely bonds can form.
Finally, in this section, Gilbert Blythe, rival and admirer.
Starts with that carrots.
Yeah.
Carrots, teasing in class.
Which ignites Anne's fury. She breaks her slate over his head and notes it's not good manners to wink at a strange girl. Sets the stage.
And she holds that grudge fiercely. Never forgive Gilbert Blythe.
Never look at him again. Never speak to him. It becomes the fuel for their academic rivalry. The insult, plus the teacher spelling her name without an E, she says, entered into my soul.
It connects back to her need for distinction, doesn't it? The rivalry isn't just about winning, it's about proving herself.
Absolutely, and the competition pushes her. Gilbert's good-natured about it, but Anne is tenacious, driven to be first in class. It paradoxically helps her excel.
Until much later. Gilbert's thoughtfulness, offering her the Avonlea school after Matthew's death.
That's the turning point. It leads to their reconciliation. His admiration was always there, just waiting.
Okay, part 4. Trials, tribulations, and triumphs. Life lessons, often learned the hard way by Anne. First, the amethyst brooch.
A lesson in honesty tangled up with imagination. Anne admires Marilla's brooch, borrows it to pretend she's Lady Cordelia Fitzgerald.
But then it goes missing. Marilla questions her relentlessly. Anne's terrified of missing the picnic.
So she confesses, falsely, makes up this elaborate story about losing it in the Lake of Shining Waters. Her storytelling skills used for defense.
But Marilla finds it later, caught in her shawl.
And Marilla apologizes. It was very wrong, but I drove you to it. A huge moment of growth for Marilla, admitting fault. And Anne is ecstatic, flew up like a rocket, just relieved to go to the picnic. Truth and forgiveness bring such relief.
Then the liniment cake.
Oh boy.
Culinary disaster. Anne's distracted by storytelling, forgets flour in the cake. Later, distracted by imagining she's a frost fairy, she forgets to mention a mouse drowned in the pudding sauce.
Imagination leading to very real, very messy consequences.
And public mortification when the sauce is served to important guests. Anne's shriek, "Marilla, you mustn't use that pudding sauce," is pure, unfiltered honesty this time. Marilla handles it with composure in the moment, but gives Anne a dreadful talking to later. A perfect clash between Anne's inner world and outer reality.
Next up, the ridgepole dare. Honor versus safety.
Peer pressure strikes. Josie Pye dares Anne to walk the Barry's kitchen roof ridgepole. Anne's pride is stung.
My honor is at stake. I shall walk that ridgepole or perish in the attempt. So dramatic, so Anne.
And she tries, takes a few steps, then falls. Crashes through the vines.
Breaks her ankle, faints. Finds out fainting is not a bit nice after all. A painful lesson about impulsivity and the limits of daring. Marilla, of course, contrasts it with her own strength of mind.
Then the concerts. Anne finds an outlet for her dramatic flair.
She throws herself into it heart and soul, practicing her dramatic recitations. Raising money for a flag is a worthy object, even if Marilla thinks it's rank foolishness.
And Matthew provides quiet support, listens to her plans, appreciates her energy.
He even secretly watches them practice, realizes Anne's dress isn't like the others, which leads him to buy her the puffed sleeve dress. Such quiet kindness.
At the big concert, she gets stage fright, feels intimidated by professionals and snooty girls.
But she overcomes it. Her splendid Titian hair and charming voice win them over. The concert's a huge success. Anne's the star. She loves making the audience cry with her performance.
Finally, her studies. Queen's Academy.
The rivalry with Gilbert is still a motivator, wanting to keep head of your class, but she also finds a nobler motive, making Matthew and Marilla proud. Especially Matthew, who believes she can beat the whole island.
Miss Stacy, the teacher, is a huge influence.
Very positive. Encourages Anne's imagination and her studies. Forgives her for reading Ben-Hur in class. Helps her become her own severest critic. Fosters her intellect without crushing her spirit.
Then the Avery Scholarship for English becomes her big goal. Redmond College, graduating in a gown.
It makes life so interesting. Gives her a future to aim for beyond Avonlea.
The anxiety waiting for the Queen's exam results is intense, that horrid, cold, fluttery feeling. Number 13 feels unlucky.
Universal exam stress, but then the news arrives via Diana.
She passed, first. Tied with Gilbert, but her name listed first.
Huge triumph, immense pride for Anne, and especially for Matthew, who is absolutely thrilled, his quiet belief fulfilled.
Which brings us to part 5. The bend in the road and future horizons. A real turning point, starting with loss.
Matthew's death, sudden, shocking, from the news about the Abbey Bank failing, instantaneous, likely painless, clutching that paper, hinting at the financial worries he had.
Anne's grief is initially quiet, tearless agony, a horrible, dull ache, remembering his kindness, his pride.
Later, tears come, finding comfort with Marilla. Planting that Scotch rose bush lit by his grave is such a beautiful, symbolic act of love and memory.
Marilla's grief is different, impassioned, breaking through all her usual reserve.
And that's when she makes that full confession of love to Anne. You've been my joy and comfort. A profound moment born from shared loss.
But the loss brings practical crises, too. Marilla reveals her failing eyesight, needs to avoid strain or risk blindness.
And the financial ruin. Their savings gone with the Abbey Bank. Notes Matthew left to pay. Green Gables might have to be sold.
Anne's dreams are suddenly overshadowed by this harsh reality, and her response,
Immediate sacrifice, without hesitation. Gives up the Avery Scholarship, gives up Redmond.
"You mustn't sell Green Gables. I'll be with you. I'm not going to Redmond." Profound love and loyalty.
She reminds Marilla, nobody could love it as you and I do, so we must keep it. Shows how much she's grown, how much Green Gables means home now.
But this sacrifice opens a door to reconciliation. Gilbert Blythe steps up.
He makes that incredibly selfless offer. He'll take the less desirable school nearby, freeing up the Avonlea school position for Anne so she can stay at Green Gables with Marilla and still perhaps save for Redmond later. It's a huge gesture.
And Anne accepts. Finally lets go of that years-long grudge.
Their conversation seals it. Gilbert says, we were born to be good friends, Anne. You've thwarted destiny enough.
And Anne blushes. A hint of something more blossoming. A natural path finally opening up.
So Anne takes this narrower path for now. Gives up the big dream for love and duty.
But she finds flowers of quiet happiness there. Accepts her horizons have closed in, but knows she still has sincere work and worthy aspiration and congenial friendship.
And crucially, she keeps her birthright of fancy. Her imagination endures. She learns happiness isn't just grand achievements, but also inner richness and connection.
Her spirit remains strong. She becomes quieter, more self-aware, recognizes the different Annes inside her.
Acknowledges it makes her troublesome, but interesting. Resolves to be good, knowing it's hard. Shows real maturity, understanding growth is ongoing.
Ultimately, the whole story shows this powerful back and forth, how Green Gables and the Cuthberts changed Anne, and how she profoundly changed them. Her choice to stay affirms the love and belonging she found. That's what home truly is. So there you have it. We've walked alongside Anne Shirley through years of imagination, independence, and love that transformed everyone around her, from renaming the world to finding her place in it.
She really showed us how to find the extraordinary in the ordinary, face disappointment with resilience, and how love and connection, sometimes found unexpectedly, truly make a place home.
Her journey teaches us, doesn't it, that even if life doesn't give us exactly our grandest dreams, finding beauty, fostering connections, and embracing who we are can make any path worthwhile.
It really leaves you thinking, what transformations could happen in our own lives if we opened our hearts and imaginations a bit more? If we look for the wonder just under the surface of the everyday?
A powerful thought indeed. Thank you for joining us on the Uncanny Valley podcast.
We look forward to exploring another topic with you next time.